Hey class, last lesson we started talking about landmark statistics, so let's review those really quick. The ones that we talked about. The first one was the maximum. If you remember, that was the largest number of the data that we had been collecting. We also talked about the minimum, or min, which was the lowest amount. We talked about the range, if you remember, was the maximum minus the minimum. And that gives you the difference between the biggest and the smallest. And then we also talked about the mode, the one that shows up the most. So today we're going to add another landmark statistic, and we're going to add something called the median. But before we get there, I want to collect some data, because everything we do with statistics, we have to have data that we are collecting those statistics about. So let's pretend that we are talking about family size, and I'm just going to kind of make up the data here so that we have some to work with. Let's say that we are making a tally chart here of family size. So when we look at it, let's say that there were 3 students that had 2 people living in their house. So we go 1, 2, 3. Let's say that we had 5 students that have 3 people in their home. So if you remember how to make a 5 with a tally, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a tally. Going through, let's say that there were 6 people with 4 people in the family. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When we get to 5 people, let's say that there were 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 2 people with 6 people in their family. 1, 2. Now let's say that we skip all the way, and then we have 1 student that has 9 people in their family. So you can see we have the tallies there. We have some data to work with. This is called a tally chart when you just put it like this. Now we're going to transfer that data into something that's a little more visually appeasing to talk about the data. So we're going to talk about a line plot, which will look something like this. So basically what you're going to do is you're just going to put an X above the line for every tally that you have. So we had 3 tallies by 2. So we go 1, 2, 3. Try to make sure that your X's are about the same size, otherwise it's going to throw off how it looks. For 3, we had 5 people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We had 6 people for 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 people for 5 in their family. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 people had 6 members in their family, and 1 had 9. So now we have it on a plot diagram, is what we call this. When you look at the plot diagram, it's a little more visually easy to see the data. You can see we kind of have a hump over here of information, and kind of a lot of it's over here. And we have this one kind of over here. So I'm going to have you pause your video for just a minute, and I would like for you to just look at the data, become familiar with it for when we use it in just a minute. So go ahead and pause now. Alright, hopefully you've had a chance to look at it. One thing that I hope you noticed is that we have all of this information over here, and we have this one piece of information way out here. When one piece of information seems way different than the rest of them, we call that piece of information an outlier. So sometimes if the outlier is so extreme away from the rest of the information, sometimes we don't even consider it and we just get rid of it. In this case, it's fairly close, so we're going to leave it on there. So let's start off by talking about the landmark statistics that we've already covered. So the first one that we are going to look at is the maximum. So I want you to pause the video now. I want you to write down the maximum. Alright, hope you have had enough time to find the maximum. If you're not having enough time, make sure you pause it at a point where you can see the data. I'm not holding up the pause sign right now because it would completely cover what you need to do your problem. So just go back, pause it if you need to, otherwise let's keep going. So we're talking about the maximum. So I'm going to use just max for this. And what we're looking for is the value with the highest number, the largest amount of people in their family. So the max in this case is going to be the 9 as the highest number, the highest value in our data set. So now what I want you to do, I want you to find the minimum. The minimum. So we're looking for that lowest value. So pause your video and write that down. Alright, let's look at the minimum. I'm just going to write min over here for mine. So the minimum here, the lowest amount, the fewest number of members of their family is going to be the 2. So our min is going to be 2. Some of you are already probably working ahead. Next I'm going to have you find the range. If you remember, the range is going to be the difference between the max and the min. So you're going to take that max minus the min. So go ahead and do that now. Remember, max minus min. There's the information. When you set up your data like this, it makes it very easy. You just go 9 minus 2, and it's going to give you a range of 7. Hopefully that's what you got. And the last one I'm going to have you do is going to be that mode. Remember, the mode is the value that shows up the most on our plot diagram. So you're looking for the one that shows up the most. Pause and do that now. Alright, when I'm looking for the one that's showing up the most, I look at the plot diagram, and basically if I've made all of my x's about the same size, it's going to be the one that goes up the highest. So 4 had 6 people in it, that's the highest. So 4 is the mode. The number 4 showed up the most in our data set. The most people said 4. That's where we get the mode. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. So now we're going to talk about our next landmark statistic called the median. And median looks like this. You can think of it as the middle. Now we can't just look at this and go down because it's the middle of all of the values. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways that we can find it. The first one takes a little bit of time, but it's the most accurate. What you do is you're going to just list out from least to greatest all of the values. So I had 3 2s, so I say 2, 2, 2. I had 5 3s, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had 6 4s, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I had 4 5s, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2 6s, 1, 2, and 1 9. When I have them listed, now I need to figure out which one is in the middle. So an easy way to do that is just start crossing out. So get rid of that one, get rid of that one. You cross out 1 at each end each time, and eventually you'll work yourself into the middle. Get rid of that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. And you just keep going. Do you notice as we get into this where there's just a bunch of 4s in there, we could stop now. I'm just going to keep going until we get there. And I'm left with just that 4 in the middle. So I know my median is going to be a 4. The other way that we could do that is if we just did it right on here. We could cross them out. It can get a little messy though. So you could start with one of these, cross that out, cross this out, cross that out, cross this out, cross that out, cross this out. Hopefully you'd eventually get down to 4. If you get to a point where there's an even number of numbers in your data, you're going to take the average or figure out what's in between them. So let me give you an example. If we ended up where there was a 3 and a 4, we crossed out everything, we still ended up with 3 and 4. If we cross those out, we have nothing left. So we don't want that. So what you would do is you would figure out what's between 3 and 4. So in that case, it would be 3.5. So I want you to just take a moment, try to make sense of what we just talked about with median, and write down any questions you have. All right, if you still have questions that you just wrote down, make sure you bring those tomorrow. Right now I want you to work on a little bit of a problem. So let's pretend that we're collecting some data on how many pets everybody has. So I'm just going to make it up and we are going to find our landmark statistics using that data. So let's say that we had 3 students that have 1 pet. Let's say that we have 2 students that have 2 pets. We have 2 students that have 3 pets. And we have 1 student that has 5 pets. When we're looking at that data, we can then use landmark statistics to make sense of it. So what you're going to do is you're going to pause your video, and I want you to find our landmark statistics. So I want you to find the max, the min, the range. I want you to find the mode and the median. If you're not sure how to find any of those, go back to the video from the previous lesson for max, min, range, and mode, or go back to the beginning of this one and look at median one more time. And we'll talk about those answers in just a moment. So pause your video, see if you can figure out what those answers are now. All right, hopefully you were able to find those answers. If not, pause, go back, and make sure that you actually try it so that you know honestly where you're at. When I look at this data, when I'm looking for the max, looking for what was the biggest number of pets that somebody had. Well, I have a mark here by 5, that's the biggest one, so my max is going to be 5. When I'm looking for a min, what was the lowest number of pets that someone had? Now 0 wasn't an option in our data, I'm sure there's some of you that don't have any, but in our data, 1 is the lowest number, so I have a 1. When we're looking at finding a range, we always do the max minus the min, and so 5 minus 1 is going to give us 4. The mode. Which number showed up the most? Remember, on a plot diagram, it's going to be the one that has the highest amount of values. So we're looking, we have 3 here, 2, 2, 1. So 1 shows up the most. So our mode is 1. When we go to find our median, then I'm going to list these out from least to greatest, and I'm just going to cross them out from each end until I find a middle. So when I'm looking, I have 1, 1, 1. I have 3 1s, 2 2s, 2, 2. 2 3s, 3, 3, and a 5. Just like that. I'm just going to cross them out from here and here. Here, here. That one, that one. I'm left with 2 2s. What's between 2 and 2? Well, they're the same number, so our median is just going to be a 2 in this case. So hopefully those are the answers that you got as well. If not, maybe go back, try to rework it, see what you did wrong. Right now is that time when you write down how are you feeling. Beginning? Are you feeling like you're developing? Or are you feeling secure? Remember, secure means you'd be able to do all this with no help, possibly something a little bit harder. Developing means you're feeling all right about it, but maybe you just need a little more help. Beginning means you really kind of struggle with it. You're not really understanding what's going on. So write that down now and be ready with that information tomorrow.